Public comment?
Just 1 second.
If you could just step up to the podium and state your name.
Just a quick thing. Paul Steer, live up in Milton NH. I know I just got my wind taken out of my sails by the chief. Says that bridge over there in Townhouse Road is not going to be even looked at till 23 or 25. But I don't know what our thoughts are. Just bringing this up about maybe looking at the extra design or maybe some community involvement, maybe putting a covered bridge over there. I've been checking out covered bridges for years. I know there's forums dedicated to it in all these places. People travel to come see these bridges, which would also bring people to lunch stops and everything along the way. I know we have like 6 or 50 or 100 years to plan the bridge, but maybe that's something we may want to consider with other people. I know, like, you know, if it's all part of a big community thing like the town of Milton is, I mean, I know there's places around that would donate certain parts, and even if we have a concrete structure on the bottom, making the top look like, you know, an old-fashioned bridge of the days of old. There's no other bridge in Stratford County. You know, something maybe to consider down the road. That's all I want to say. Maybe pop in every once in a while and maybe keep ringing the bells. Maybe something would happen along the way. So that's all.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comment?
Humphrey Williams. Just a quick thing about the webpage. I know the website's looking pretty good. I mean, it's working fairly well, but noticed that it doesn't have the videos anymore, and I had heard that it might not be able to link those, and I thought, you know, a lot of people have gone through those in the past, ones from the meetings. If we're going to have them videotaped, we should have a place to be able to get access to them if necessary. So that wasn't working. There was one other spot, but it looked like under the town deliberative minutes, when I went to look at that originally, it asked for a login. But so I think there may be some minor things that we may still run into, but that appears to be fixed and that link works. So
Okay.
that's all I wanted to bring up for now. So
All right.
thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. I'm not seeing any, so I'll close public comment. We will move on to new business. First up, approval of motor vehicle registration fees abatement. And since Michelle's not here, I'll turn it over to Dave.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a routine abatement request by the town clerk. It's for the an unused motor vehicle registration, and the individuals already had the state portion of the registration fees reimbursed by the state of New Hampshire. So this is just to follow through and reimburse the town's portion of the fees.
All right.
Make a motion to, excuse me, make a motion to approve the abatement and refund of $260 to Joseph Keegan for his unused vehicle registration.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Next up, annual wastewater operator contract renewal. Dale?
Good evening. Historically, I've done an annual contract with the town. Been doing it for 30 years, I guess. I budgeted for 3% in the wastewater budget for this year. I don't know what you guys were thinking about in terms of a raise, if you want to call it that, but that's what I had budgeted for, and that's what I'm asking for. So
I filled in the contract amount at the budgeted figure, so that's what it's.
Oh.
The contract is made out for.
Do you have any questions or about the contract or what I do or anything? So
who's your backup?
usually I use Charles Tiffany. He's my normal backup.
Mm-hmm.
My other one is Steve Deinstead. They're both out of Farmington.
Okay.
Both licensed operators.
I'll make a motion, we accept the figures that you gave, Dave, is 32,568, 60.
34,645. I think I provided you a draft motion with the correct figure.
I'll make a motion to, for Ryan to sign the chairman to sign a wastewater agreement with Dale Sprague for the term of May 1st, 2019 through April 30th, 2020 in the amount of $34,645.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I have the original of the contract here, made out in that amount, and you were just approved to sign, Mr. Chairman, so if you want to sign, and Dale's here, and he can sign, and we'll have the contract all done.
Would you like a copy?
Yeah, we'll get him a copy.
Dana said she'd like a copy of that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Next up, approval of town planner to serve as spokesperson for bridge projects. Dave, I see Bruce is here too.
Is Bruce here? Oh, there he is. He's in back. He's hiding in back. Okay, so as you know, in preparation for the deliberative session, I had done some looking into the status of our town bridge projects, and basically it sort of seemed to me that they were just sort of floating out there, and no one was had lead responsibility from the town for bird dogging these projects and staying on top of them, and you know, coordinating with the state and such. So Bruce volunteered to act in that capacity. So I'm suggesting to the selectmen that you take him up on that offer. And he's here if you have any questions for him. And I think I provided a motion to you to do this.
I'll make a motion to designate town planner Bruce Woodruff as the town's liaison with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation relative to Milton's bridge projects.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So you're it, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Also, the next item also involves Bruce, and this is apparently the Stratford County Regional Planning Commission, their Transportation Advisory Committee has had a vacant position for Milton for a while. Is that right?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. So the Transportation Advisory Committee is an important committee because they prioritize all the transportation projects from this region, and then they send their list and their priorities to the state for inclusion in the state's 10-year transportation plan. So it's a important group to be a part of, particularly if you have any projects that you're advocating for in your own community. And so Bruce has also agreed to serve in that capacity if so appointed by the board, and I think I provided you a motion in that regard also.
I'll make a motion to appoint town planner Bruce Woodruff as Milton's representative to the Transportation Advisory Committee of the Stratford County Regional Planning Commission.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks again, Bruce.
You didn't have to say a thing? Or?
All right, moving right along. Next up, sale of old fire station, 460 White Mountain Highway. Dave?
Well, this one is a little complicated. The when I put this on the agenda, I thought this was all set to go. The board had there was a purchase and sale agreement. We obtained the state's, the Attorney General's consent on the sale last week. So after we got that, I thought this was ready to go, and so I put it on your agenda, and I thought we could, sell the property and realize some income for the town and move ahead in this area. But unfortunately, Thursday afternoon, before I left, I got an email from our town council. I had been questioning him about the legal basis for this sale, and it turns out there's an issue. Thought I had copies of that letter here. The letter from town council.
You got it.
You have it?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, good. It's sort of a complicated mess, but I'll try to explain it as best as I can. There are two state statutes relative to towns disposing of real estate that the town has adopted, the local adoption statutes. There's RSA 8080 that pertains to tax title properties the town has taken for non-payment of taxes, and that particular law was amended in the last couple of years at some point to allow for the town to use a real estate broker for the disposition of tax title properties. The problem, of course, is that the old fire station is not a tax title property. It was a gift to the town. So then we have to go to the other statute, which is RSA 4114A, and that statute has a specific exclusion down at the bottom of it. I think I provided you copies of these statutes. There's a specific exclusion for properties that have been received by the town as a gift or donation, and and the gift was for a community purpose. You can't dispose of them by the use of a realtor. So we're sort of stuck. We don't have the legal authority to sell the parcel currently. Now, town council did send a draft warrant article to the town a year ago, January, which was, as I understand it, it was supposed to go on the town warrant in 2018, which was supposed to provide the town the legal authority, if it was voted by the voters, to use a realtor to sell the old fire station property. But apparently that never went on the warrant. I don't know why it didn't go on the warrant. It didn't appear on the 2018 warrant. It wasn't on this year's warrant. So the town does not have the legal ability to sell the parcel using a broker at the moment. And your town council says your options are: one, to wait until next year and put it on next year's warrant, or the second option would be to call a special town meeting to get that warrant article passed, but then that has all the the expense and everything associated with having a town meeting under the SB2 form of government that you have here. So I'm sorry to have to convey this. I thought it was going to be an easy win, something that we could check off the list as done, but it turns out that it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Yes.
So how do you, if you can't sell it by real estate, you can sell the property by auction or by sealed bid? Is that correct?
Under 41-111A.
All right. So at one point we had a signed agreement with the current people who were proposing that won on a sealed bid.
It wasn't approved by the Attorney General at that time.
Right, at that time.
The
But
dollar
is there-
figure at that time.
I mean, this has dragged on. In November of 2017, it was supposed to, it was discussed with council and that to go ahead and do this and get it on as a warrant article. In 2018, it didn't go on. In 2019, nobody knew about it, apparently. And so now it's still not on there. I mean, there's got to be some way that we can appeal to the...
Well,
I mean, this has dragged on and on and on for, what, almost 3 years now? There's got to be some way that we can...
no, I agree, and
I mean, these people have come up to bat twice
this
and
is,
struck out.
I think, I mean, it's just, it's a complete embarrassment to the town, is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to put it. This is like the third time now, I think, that we supposedly had the authority to sell it, and now we don't have the authority to sell it. And I know this last time when we discussed this, these questions were asked, and I think we were, as a board, misled. Unfortunately, here we are again. So our options, one, are to have a special town meeting to sell it right off, right, Dave?
To get the authority to go through a broker to sell it.
Now, is there, at the current time, I don't mean to put you on the spot, are there any other avenues or options we can go down that you're aware of?
Well, if you don't want to sell it through a broker, then I think you may.
Might I bring up that the broker is sitting in the room also?
Yeah, okay, then, no, 41-111A specifically says you can't use the provisions of that statute to sell a gift, so no, you can't use that.
So our only option is
So
wait or have a special town meeting.
that's what the town council said. It's my understanding at present. I'm sorry to advise you of that, but that's what it appears
I mean,
to be.
I don't. It's not fair to the broker. It's not fair to the town. The building's sitting there, deteriorating worse and worse as time goes on.
I agree.
It's a lose for everybody, and I think to wait a year is really ridiculous, because soon you're not going to have anything. What would be the cost to have a special town meeting for this?
Well, I don't know, but
Could you,
you'd have to have a special election for the voters to vote on it, or else tie it into a regularly scheduled election if there's one coming up in the fall or something. So there's cost associated with holding elections, of course.
So according to this was prior to us even getting elected. This was
Correct.
supposed to be on.
It was November of 2017. It should have been on the March 2018 ballot.
When we discussed this,
Which time?
the last time before we listed it with the current agent, this question was specifically asked,
Yes.
and we were told that
That is
it
it
wasn't.
March 31st, or I'm sorry, not March 31st, May 31st of last year, 2018, the RSA changed that allowed us the ability, is what we were told.
RSA 8080 was
Right.
amended,
Right,
Right.
but 8080 only pertains to tax title
correct,
properties.
right.
So that doesn't pertain to this parcel.
Can we look at other options? You know, we don't do it for tonight, but for the next meeting to see if there's, brainstorm. I don't know. It's
Charitable trust unit, AG's office.
Well, the AG's office has agreed to sell it at the price that was obtained by the broker.
I understand that, but I mean, anyway, but that was,
if we can get something in writing to say that we're authorized to.
But I don't think we will, because the AG's office has said,
No.
assuming that the board has the authority to do this, and we were led down the path that we did have the authority to do
Right.
this, and that I had found another email from town administrator way back stating a different RSA, which I had forwarded you, and you looked into it, and it was not the. We never did have the authority to do it.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, the basic situation is, the board probably understands, is that in New Hampshire, municipalities can only do what the legislature says you can do. We're not a home rule state. There was a home rule amendment to the Constitution back in the year 2000. You may recall it was on the ballot, but it didn't pass. So municipalities in New Hampshire don't have any ability to draw out, to color outside the lines. We have to go exactly by what the legislature says we have to do, and that's the problem that we're dealing with here.
My personal thoughts are, if the only option is to have a special town meeting, no, I don't want to spend that money, but I think we should look into what it would cost us to do that,
look at other options,
and to have the building sit there for another year.
and dilapidated.
We're going to get less money for it the longer it sits there. I don't really know what else to do. I mean, we're
I mean, if we can't legally do it, we can't legally
Right.
do it, which stinks. But we
the only legal way to do it is to have a special town meeting.
A lot of money.
I think we need to figure out what that would cost us and then reevaluate the situation.
Yeah.
So let's find out what we need to do to.
Okay, well, we can keep working on it, but that's the current situation, and I'm sorry to have to inform you of that outcome and the realtor and the community. I thought we were going to be able to get something done.
Right.
So with that being said, do we need to take it off the market then? Legally, I guess we can't.
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I mean, according to this from Walter, we can't because it didn't get approved by the voters to authorize us
Yeah,
to
we
do
have
it.
no
so,
authority to sell it, yeah.
so we can't sell it. We can't sell it. So I hate to do it, but I think we're going to take it off the market.
should we reach out to legal and before we pull it off the market?
Well, I've been dealing with town council on this, and those are the two options he provided, is wait till next year and put it on the warrant, or have a special town meeting. That's the only two options he could provide me to give to the board.
What about just for argument's sake, contacting LGC and say what they have to say on it? I mean, just getting a different opinion from
Sure, I can talk to their attorneys.
It
but
never hurts.
But I think it's probably going to be the same, but you don't know. Yeah. Okay.
They deal with enough throughout the whole state that they may have run into something where there may, I mean, I'm just saying it's worth a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Okay.
All right, next up, Snowmobile Club Winter Beach Access. Andy?
I just want to just make it so that it doesn't happen again. I mean, I know we all got called kind of midstream, and they wanted us to open the beach gate so they could use it prior to a meeting. So I just want to bring it up, and is that something that the board, you know, wants to make it as a every year type thing, or something that we want to throw it to the rec commission to come up with a, I mean, rather than us getting called, oh, hey, we need the gate open so that this doesn't happen again.
No, I agree.
So how do we correct it? Is it something that we make a motion that we effective this, or is that something that should go through the rec department? Or?
I think it goes through us because it's town-owned property, is that
Yeah.
correct? So we make the motion to open it up effective this date and close it effective that date.
So to make this so it's a reoccurring thing and it isn't a question each year,
Right.
would it make sense, and I'm not sure I'm thinking out loud, which could be dangerous here, would it make sense to have an ordinance, or would that not be appropriate for an ordinance? You know,
You could have an ordinance.
an ordinance after a certain date that the gates are
Can I
open.
make a motion to
We do have
hear from
the
Steve?
evergreen snow.
Make a motion to hear from?
What I would propose is, and I meant to bring them with me and I forgot, they're home on my kitchen table, but we'll get the permission form that we use for all our landowners, right? I'll fill that out, we can, you know, you can do those indefinite for a period of time, whatever. I would propose that I get one of those, we fill it out, that we're gonna open it from December 15th to April 15th every year. And then once you sign that and approve it, you can revoke it whenever you want to revoke it. But if you put it in effect as indefinite, then every year, because I have that permission form, right, I can get with Karen, we can get with Karen Brown, and we can open the gate when we need to. And I would say that would be from, you know, it's gonna be from December, the trail system is not open before December 15th, and it closes April 15th. We are seldom, does that ever happen, but we would open it up December 15th, right, and then close it when the ice goes out. Right, that's when we effectively would close it. But that way, others that may want to have access to it using the snowmobile trail could, and nobody would have to declare the ice was safe, because we don't ever do that, right? And but because it's a snowmobile trail, our $2 million liability policy is still in effect to cover it anyway, in some untoward situation where somebody goes out on unsafe ice. And, I mean, anybody can file a lawsuit, we all know that. So, but you would have insurance that would cover the trail, you know, in between you and it, right? And, you know, it would come to us and they would sue us because it's our trail, and then we would defend it, and they may sue you, but we would defend it. And there's a whole bunch of laws that prevent them from ever prevailing anyway. Nobody ever says the ice is safe. Nobody in the state of New Hampshire will declare ice safe. Nobody. Not Fish and Game, not snowmobile clubs, not anybody.
So with that being said, should we have him come back for the next meeting or get the
Yeah,
paperwork?
if he could bring the form in and have it filled out, we could put it on the next selectmen's meeting agenda and get it signed and approved.
Okay.
I just don't want you to run into the same problem again.
Well, that's
what-
why I came a couple weeks ago to try to
Okay.
just, put something in place. I think we used to come every year, and things have changed because we've moved the parking lot,
Mhm.
right? And which kind of is the other part of it, is that I would do 2 permission slips, one for the parking lot, where the parking right is, and one for the town beach access. And then we would be set until you tell us we're no longer set.
Now, with that being said, as far as you're saying April 15th, if we have an early thaw, I mean,
We would close it. We close it. When the
Common
trails
sense,
go away,
okay.
we close the
Right,
gates.
okay.
We
right, you're not gonna ruin your trails and systems.
right, because we're sensitive to our landowners,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Landowners don't want a sled going through a mud puddle in their yard,
Mhm.
across their field, or tearing the dirt up. I mean, people let us do it, what we do, because we're just tearing up snow. We're not tearing up the grass, typically. Some places we do, but
So do you want me to put that in a motion if he gets it dropped off, that authorize the chairman to sign it on behalf of the board? From December 15th to April 15th. I'll put that in the motion.
Okay. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So when we
Alright.
get it, then he can sign it and,
so I'll bring it to the town.
yep,
Okay, all right.
thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's continually, not just for the year.
Continue until somebody else changes their mind, so it won't be me.
All right, next up, RFP for legal services.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the board members indicated to me when I came on board that you wanted to do an RFP for legal services, and so I've done one. You have a draft of it, and I wanted to see if you want to proceed with that. My own thoughts about it are, I mean, the board's certainly entitled to look for other legal counsel. At the same time, there's what I've been seeing is there's sort of been some lack of continuity and effort in dealing with things like the properties and such here, and switching councils. You're gonna, it's gonna take some time to get somebody else up to speed on all the issues here, and it'd be just another area of another area of lack of continuity. But that's just sort of my view. So whatever the board wants to do is fine with me.
Discussion from the board?
I think it had been discussed a long time ago about putting an RFP out. Walter was a short term, am I wrong in that? I thought I heard somewhere along the line here that it was
Yeah, when we made the switch to Walter, Walter originally agreed to come on in
interim basis.
Yep, and then we were going to revisit it in 3 to 6 months, if I remember right, where we put out an RFP and he'd actually respond to the RFP. I think we went 3 months, and then because there was so much going on, he recommended we go another 3 months. And anyway, we're well beyond that, so I think we need to go forward with that. So.
And with that being said, an RFP only says we're looking, it's not we're buying. I mean, we're just,
You're taking proposals,
right,
and you're going to look at them.
and we need to look at all, my opinion is I'll make a motion to authorize the interim town administrator to issue the request for proposal for legal services.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we want to date these, or what's?
Yeah, we'll need to fill in some dates here. I left the application deadline blank because I didn't know when.
What do you recommend?
I'd give them a month or so.
Could we go April 1st?
Yeah, that would work. April Fool's Day.
I was thinking that as you said that. No, something else. There's another blank here.
All right, so we're in consensus April 1st.
And there was just some corrections.
Pardon?
There was some corrections.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just saw one. If you
All
got,
right.
if you got
I
more,
I marked them.
if you got more, please give them to me and I'll make the
Don't be
changes.
insulted, sorry. Here, I'll trade with you, how about that?
Okay.
You wanna give me yours and I'll give you mine?
Oh, okay.
It's
well,
got the correct,
She uses blue pen, not red.
That works.
it's not as harsh.
Tell him that.
All right, old business. Review and approve adjusted 2019 town warrant. Dave?
Yes, after the deliberative session, there were a few minor changes made there, and so we've made the changes to the town warrant, and it's ready for your signatures, I believe.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve and sign the revised 2019 town warrant.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have the original? Oh, it's right here. She's handing it to her. Okay.
It wasn't a full hand, so.
Just where the church is no longer the Assembly of God Church, is that something that we need to adjust the wording? It's not critical.
Oh, it's got a different name now?
The sign still says.
Yeah, but it's been sold. I think it's, what I'm seeing, it's changed hands.
If we put a new name on it this time.
Would that require a deed?
Yeah, I haven't seen any deeds on it yet, but it could be, changed to a different process too.
And the signs,
I don't know if we've been in contact with the pastor there. We're still gonna do it there. He didn't say anything to me about a name change.
Okay. I just saw someplace that it was no longer the Assembly of God Church. It was something out of Portsmouth. So, yeah. Restoration, yes. So I just don't know what, if it's fixed. I mean, it's just we're advertising that it's an Assembly of God Church, which is apparently not anymore. So, anyways.
Okay, well, if it's got a different name, we could make that
We can make
change, and that'll just be a ministerial change. So,
I can look into that.
okay.
All right, next up, review and approve 2019 voters guide.
Yes, we, Kathy and I worked on the voter's guide publication with all the warrant articles and explanation of what they're about and the tax rate
We still
impact.
need the sample ballot and some information from I got some information from the school and CIP that we're gonna put in there. And but that's the basis draft, that's the
Okay.
draft on it. And as soon as the ballot's back, I will have that, but Michelle sent it in, we're waiting for it to come back.
Okay, so if you have any comments or changes,
I didn't mark that one up.
you did mark that one up? Okay. Well, if you find any changes, let us know and we'll get that corrected before it gets published.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2019 voters guide for distribution to the town residents to include the amended changes that Kathy and
Second
Dave
that.
are working on.
Mm-hmm.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up, discussion of town-owned properties available for disposition.
Kathy, you want to come up and help with this one?
Please.
Hi.
So the board said you wanted to have a discussion about all the town-owned properties that would be available for disposition. And Kathy worked up a spreadsheet here that lists all the properties Most of them are tax deeded parcels. There's a few others that are like remnants from when the highway project went through
right.
and such, and there's some
And I've,
backland parcels and.
right.
Mhm.
I've gone through and I've put some identification on them. There is one in there, just to bring it up, there was one 5-acre lot in there that's a gift. So again, that sets it into a different category, like the fire station. The rest of them, there's a good percentage of tax deeds. I've marked down there if the 3 years is still pending on that. There is also some that's listed as unknown, and there has been discussion in the past with the town attorney that he feels that is something that we do not sell because of being unknown and noticing and different legal issues. So that's something that should be discussed further with our town council.
So, Kathy, if I could just
Yeah.
interrupt for a minute.
Mhm.
Just for clarification for everybody in here, could you just explain the reason for the 3-year mark and how that works?
It's part of the RSA's, okay, and the RSA does allow that, if we've taken a tax deed on a property, they have 3 years to approach the town and purchase it back from the town for what was owed in interest, penalties, and taxes.
Right.
And after the 3 years, then at that point, the town has no obligation to, give them any, to listen to them regarding their interest in the property.
Right.
And then we have the right to sell it or dispose of it as we need.
But also, sorry, isn't there something if we decide not?
If we sell it before the 3 years, then we come into the situation where the town has the right to take the money that is owed to them for all the cost and interest and taxes, and the money will then be conveyed back to the original owner of the property.
Right, the owner then gets, if there's money left over,
They get the proceeds.
some of the money from the sale. Once you go past the 3 years, the owner has no claim on any of the, the money that the town would realize from the sale of the property. And that's why, for instance, in Wolfboro where I worked, we had a policy of always waiting the 3 years before we put tax title parcels up for sale, because that way the town would get all the revenue, and we wouldn't have to worry about possibly having to share some of the revenue with the previous owner.
So with that being said, though, some of these that are eyesores, we have to, if we vote to wait for 3 years, we've got to look at them for 3 years.
Yeah, well, I think, again, I would definitely want legal counsel involved in that, but I think too that some of the properties that we have discussed, they have been either a cease and desist, condemns, or situations like that. And I do think that there is probably legal opinion that would allow us to do so. And if we had to clean up the properties, I'm sure the cost of that cleanup would also be reimbursed to us that way. But again, legal counsel on that.
Okay, so some of these you've marked possible sale, and then you have 3 years. Does that mean we're still
That's
waiting
one-
on the 3
right,
years?
and
That's what we're
several of
still
those was
waiting.
taken either last year or this year,
Okay,
so we're still
all
in
right.
that 3-year period.
All right.
Yeah, so why would somebody want to buy something and then somebody can come back and buy it back, correct? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I don't
No.
believe they have the right to buy it back. Once we
But
have-
they, right, whatever we get for,
we have to pay them whatever is left over from the proceeds after all expenses to the town has been covered.
okay.
The ones that are unknown, that might, that they would have to, and again, legal counsel be involved. I've been told by our present counsel that we should not be selling the property that's unknown, that we had just done more of a bookkeeping procedure on the books because they've been on the warrants for so long. Nobody showed ownership, we couldn't locate ownership, and to do surveys or title searches, you can tie up a lot of money and still come up with nothing. So that we'd have to have, you know, further opinion on that.
So how do we move forward to?
My personal opinion on this is, I think that, I mean, we need to look at each individual case, but I really think that, I mean, the town isn't in the real estate business, and I think that maybe the cleanest and quickest way to clean a lot of this up would be to have an auction. And, I mean, get them back on the tax roll, get them out of the town's hands, and move on.
I just happened to have had lunch today with the city manager in Rochester, and he was telling me that they use St. Jean's auction service for all of their tax title properties, and he said they do a great job.
That's who we used last time in
Yeah.
2016.
And I mean, some of these, I think we could put some stipulations in that we'd want them cleaned up in a certain amount of time. And there's one particular one that I will comment on, if we want to get into the details, or if we want to wait and have that discussion later. I won't make my comment now, but I don't know what the rest of the feelings of the board is.
The only thing is we put out an RFP for real estate agents for the properties, and then awarded, really, I don't know how long, a month ago or whatever it's been, to 2 real estate agents. So is there any reason why we can't give them some of the, I mean, we did say we awarded them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no reason you can't do that.
Right,
And
and then the
remember
rest
that
of-
under RSA 8080, which pertains to tax title parcels, you can use a
Don't do it
realtor.
as gifted.
Yeah, as long as it's not gifted,
Right.
right.
I just, if we do go down that road, I think we need to make sure that properties are sold as is. We're not turning
Right,
power on,
right.
we're not doing anything. They need to go as is, because I think we're gonna just end up spending a lot of money.
There should be a property card there for each one that's on that list. And there is a couple pieces there that could be just offered to an abutter, because there's nothing anybody could do with it. It's not large enough. It would have to be offered to an abutter. We could,
For landlocked.
right, hand that off, or, you know, have letters sent out and offered to the abutters and see if there was any interest in that. It would get it back on the tax rolls. I would suggest that we make sure that they merge it with the original lot, so we're not having these little lots sitting out there either for separate tax bills, that if, you know, upon purchase, that it would have to be merged.
Now, if, let's just say we were to, one of the properties that hasn't hit the 3-year mark, and we go to sell that, if it doesn't go the auction route, how do you determine the value and what's a fair price for it, where obviously the town can only take what they're owed for money, and the rest would have to go to?
So you're looking, you want to sell it, but you want to know how to determine the value?
Yes, so I'm saying, if, I mean, for the properties that the town has owned for the 3 years
That-
or more,
Yeah.
in my opinion, that's easy. We own them, we can sell them, we can do whatever we want.
Right.
But for a property that hasn't hit the 3-year mark,
I think that I'd want to look at I'd want legal counsel on it, but I think that we can dispose of it, and whatever we get, I don't think there's anything that was in the RSA, it said that we had to sell it at a certain percentage of value. So we actually, I believe, but again, legal counsel, I believe we could.
Yeah, in
offer
some
it up.
instances, you know, if the previous owners have left the community and, you know, don't have any interest in the property, well then there's, you know, there may be no downside to you know, going ahead and selling the property before the 3-year period.
I guess just,
But I don't believe there's anything in that statute that says that we have to obtain a certain percentage of the value either. That, I think that was what the
Yes.
question was, right?
and I guess just thinking out loud here, if, and this is in regards to the particularly the properties that we've owned less than 3 years,
I think I know what
an
you're
an auction gives everybody a fair chance, so to say, and the town isn't trying to put a value on it. It brings what it brings at the time, and everybody had a fair shot at it. So to me, it almost seems, if we go down that road, it seems to be the more fair way, in my eyes, to do it for everybody involved.
Right, I see what you're saying.
That's
Okay.
what I'm trying to say, I guess. Whether it makes sense or not, I don't know, but that's what.
But when if we're dealing, are you bringing the fact that there could be a safety issue at that property?
Right.
Okay,
That's a whole nother factor.
okay.
I mean, as is, as seen, and whatever it brings, and if there's no bids and it doesn't bring anything, then that's when we as the board are going to have to look at a different avenue to move forward. But also an auction is quick, it's guaranteed, and the property's going to bring what it is, and then as of that day, the town is no longer going to own it.
Right, and it's back on the tax rolls.
So how do we deal with these? I mean, how do we deal with the 3 years? I mean, do we just...
Well, all the ones that have the 3-year period has already gone by, they're clear.
Well,
They're clear of any obligation to
I
the
get that. I
previous
mean,
owners.
there's you know,
So
from
you-
2010,
So you could
2004. So I mean, I get that. Those are easy.
you could put all of those. You could group all of those together, the 3-year plus.
But then we've
ones.
got some that there's some that are gifted. So we've got to take that one off.
Yeah, that's another issue.
And then we've got some that, you know, that are under the 3-year, but we really don't have any choice. But I don't think we have any choice but to unload them. How do we move forward with this, I guess, is the question.
Well, you have options, and it's you know, you can go through the realtors if you want. You can go through an auctions service. You can go out with you know, with bids for the parcels. There's different ways of going. It's whatever the board's preference is.
My personal thought is we go down through the list and check off the ones that we can sell, and discuss any particular reasons why we may not want to sell one, and go the auction route. I just think it's the fairest, quickest, cleanest way to dispose of what we have here. And then if stuff doesn't sell, we're going to have to readdress those properties individually.
At the last auction, I believe every piece sold. They handled all the advertising and everything. That was in 2016, so.
That's what the fellow I had lunch with today. He said they handle everything.
They do a very nice
everything.
job. We have to work a little bit, I mean, they will contact us and we will send them information, they will do all that end of it, and like I said, it was, everything sold.
Do we want to, I mean, do we want to go through one by one of these tonight, or
Well, if you have particular issues or concerns with certain properties, you may want to consider going into non-public session to discuss them. But I thought having a general discussion with the public so they know what's being considered would be a useful way to start the conversation.
One property that has been discussed and has been, I'll say, been flip-flopped by the board is the 1121 White Mountain Highway property, which is directly across the street from the one-room schoolhouse, where back in November the Historical Society had come in front of the board expressing interest in that, to use that as a place to move the schoolhouse and do the restoration on it. The board had originally agreed to do that, and then had revoked that one day before petition warrant articles were due, not to go forward with that anymore. So I would highly recommend that that one be tabled and not sold until further discussion is done on that. The Historical Society was doing quite a bit of background research on moving that, and actually had some very well, what do I say, experienced volunteers and companies volunteering their time doing research on the restoration of that building and coming up with a proposal to present to the town. But that all kind of, I don't want to say it's been completely dropped, but it's been tabled by the Historical Society to see what is done with this particular property.
Where it provides you with the cards, I still can give you maps to show you where the lots are located. This is something that you want to revisit at the next meeting, and that way I'll give you a chance to go through these one by one. And if there's questions to be asked, we might have the chance to provide you with more information.
I think that would be a wonderful idea.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some that are, you know, pretty good sized acreage, and I just kind of like to.
That way, I mean, the cards are there, like I said.
Yeah,
and
I
can-
get that,
And I can give you the, maps, and if there's certain ones, I can look further into the files to see if there's some information there, and there's some things that might require legal research on.
Oh, and there again, with the legal part of it, I definitely want. I'm not ready to jump on this tonight. I mean, I want to get this stuff out of our hands. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to get us in a mess. I mean, let's look at that
Already
piece
have
up the
enough.
road for. I'll make a motion, we just table this until.
Second.
I mean, I'll come down and actually go through the maps. I mean, I just.
Right. I've got I have them pretty much available for you by the end of the week anyways.
Okay.
But if you got questions, I can pull some files and that. So for the next meeting, or?
Are you tabling to the next meeting, Andy?
Yeah.
All right, so we got a motion, we got a second,
Aye.
and now I'll take roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I know some of the, I'll have to go back and see if I can find my previous notes, but I guess it was a couple years ago we started, and one of them I don't think exists, because,
Well, this is it.
Yeah, we-
Unfortunately, you can put a lot of money into determining they don't exist, unfortunately,
it's-
on these unknown properties.
Yeah, I don't think I would recommend wasting a lot of effort on the unknown ones, but the tax title ones that are definite
yeah, I think
properties.
the Jug Hill one, I think that was the one.
Mhm.
I can't remember, there was one of them that I specifically actually went out knocking on doors trying to
Oh, I remember that.
figure
Yes,
out.
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, and
yes.
there was a resident that was very nice to
But
present
we
a
do
plan
have-
to us and share it with us that kind of explained that never existed.
But unfortunately, like I say, it's on there, and to get it off and not inflate the warrants all the time, periodically, they would clean the warrants up by doing that, but doesn't mean that the real estate is always there. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Kathy.
All right.
So, other business that may become before the board. We good there? So we will move on to approval of minutes. starting with the February 4th, 2019 minutes.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the February 4th mittens.
A second, what she's trying to say.
Minutes as written.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, the February 9th is the deliberative session meeting minutes.
Motion accepted. Written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I know that I put the January 28th minutes in the office to be signed. They went missing. Could you re-sign
They were
the
just
28th? Unless someone's been hoarding them.
I swear, I just saw them.
Yeah, they might be in my
Yes, I know we
meeting
can.
book, I don't know. You might wanna
No,
check.
they were, there was a slight adjustment and I had them in there in the check folder to have everyone sign.
They weren't in
Oh,
a folder,
okay.
they've been laying there for like a week, since
I've-
last Thursday.
Looked a bunch of times. You don't mind signing it
I won't
again?
sign it, but-
All right.
It was discussed at
What's-
other meetings, and it needs to be signed.
What's the amount?
Sorry.
Well,
Thanks.
this is part of the contract they already signed, but this is just to put them into the motion of the rebound that is starting in 2019.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll cover that when I get to town administrator comments.
So, these 28 meeting minutes were the meeting that I was not at, and I abstained from the vote, so I don't think I signed.
That's why I know there's something, you're the only signature that wasn't on it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that too.
I have very limited amount of time to go in and collect things too, so I can't.
Thank you.
So maybe the last signature, throw it under my door.
Okay.
Because it's just he and I, both, and then both signatures were on, I wondered why it was still floating in there, because he wasn't there.
I don't know where it was floating. It's not a big deal.
All right. So next up, public comment pertaining to topics discussed at today's meeting. All right, I think I saw Humphrey's hand up first, and then Tim. And then,
Again, Humphrey Williams. Two quick things. The gifted property, and I know, Dave, you brought this up, but I have a question on that. When you mention RSA 8080 and 4114A, that's in regards to using a broker though, right? A real estate broker? Can't
Correct.
that property still go out on sealed bid or auction? As opposed to using a real estate broker? I mean, I know it's gifted property, but I thought that fell under the ability to be able to put it out on sealed bid. So, we have to think on that answer,
yeah,
but I mean, I
I'm-
thought that was one,
I-
because I understand not being able to do it through a broker without getting approval, but
Mhm.
we're looking for other options on how to get rid of, especially like the fire station. The sealed bid may be an option. The only other one was the Atlantic Broadband. Do we have a timeframe when we're gonna be having them come out?
Yes, I was gonna report that to the board. They'll be coming to the meeting on March 18th.
Okay, yeah, it'd be a good time to discuss, obviously, what it's gonna cost the town. So that was why. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right, Tim next.
Timothy Long, just 3 questions if I may. How many tax properties do we have that are more than 3 years old, approximately?
We have the list. We can provide you a copy of it.
9. I'm sorry, 14.
14? Okay, thank you. Second question is that, you read my head. Oh, yes. Where can I get a list of people who have filed for elected positions in the town for this, for the town meeting?
Town clerk.
Yeah, it's on the,
Is it online?
it's on the voter's guide, on the front of the voter's guide. That's gonna be published
On the
and sent
website.
out to everybody.
The individual people?
Right.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question, an idea that my wife presented. Would it be possible to put the old schoolhouse with the New Hampshire Farm Museum, in as much as a person who owned the Farm Museum at one time taught at the schoolhouse? Would that be an idea? Something to present to the
Yeah, there's the Historical Society did look into that avenue, and it was deemed that it wasn't agricultural, and that was the intent of that's the mission statement of the Farm Museum, so it was not a possible solution, unfortunately, as much as I would agree that would be a great spot for it.
Thank you.
Right, so and Larry.
Alex Monster, we were the ones who were going to purchase the fire station, so sad news for us. We were actually here to talk to you tonight to see if we could get contractors out there to give us bids to do the siding and roof so we could get those done on day one of ownership.
So sorry.
Yeah, so it's brutal for us. I did just want to mention that Cubby has spent a lot of time with us, letting us into the building, communicating with us. She's done diligent work, and I hope that that'll be considered. No matter what avenue you go down, she's spent a lot of time and done a lot of work there. And then just my 2 cents, here you guys talk about doing an auction versus having a broker sell the properties. I buy properties both ways very often, and the auctions just seem to be a lot cleaner. That's just my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Brown. 3 things. One I didn't know was coming, and that is the schoolhouse. I was on the Farm Museum board at the time, and also the last member of the Plumbers Ridge Sewing Society. The problem was also the limitations placed on the properties by the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests and by the Federal Department of Agriculture view preservation covenants on the Plummer property. So those are 2 additional things. On that, thank you for the planned clarity and detailed presentation of courses of action to take. Thank you.
Okay.
The other thing, lovely book called Looking Out for Number 1, Real Estate Sales as a Real Estate Facilitator, Robert J. Ringer, notary public in the states of Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. He was not a real estate broker. He got his cut by a third-party arrangement with the purchaser of the property to enter into a private, non-real estate agent contract and got his commission, or her commission, from the sale of the property. The point would be, what are the restrictions? Do you have to go through a sealed bid or auction? Does the town have authority to sell the property? Can a real estate agent rescind or step away from their titled obligations as a real estate person? Can you have 3-way trust that the purchaser of the property would then enter into a side contract for the purchase of the property? One more way out of the box. The third thing would be on the tax sale properties. You can always try a $1 sale. You can go for a $100 kick-in lottery. The winner takes it, and you put in terrorem stipulations on the sale that there is an escrow bond for certain repairs, bringing it up to a taxable property by date X or forfeit of amount Y. Thank you.
Thank you.
Russell Neal, just a couple things. I really question what you're paying your lawyer for if this wasn't all explained to you people 3 years ago as to what your courses of action and what you had to do to sell that property. And maybe it was, and some of you weren't here, I know that. I think probably when it started, all of you weren't here. But what the second thing that brings me to, and I've noticed this over and over, and you need some sort of a tickler so that when things are discussed, it doesn't get lost and forgot about. right? It doesn't, you gotta do, the lawyer told you gotta do a warrant. Well, the warrant was never done. And it can be something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet. When you have an action item from the meeting, you put it on there. And then the first meeting of the month, every month, you go through your list of action items, and if they're taken care of, you clear them off. But you always have this working list of action items that are open and outstanding, and that's part of your agenda. You put it on there and you go through them. And maybe there's no update, and it stays on, but it doesn't come off until it's voted off or it's complete. And then these things don't fall. If they've done that, put it on there. You need a warrant article. When the time to submit the warrant articles would have come up, you just said, oh, we got to get that on. And the warrant article would have been done, and it would have been on there 2 elections ago, and it would have been sold and had a new roof and siding by now.
Yep.
And I would explore the sealed bid with a minimum amount of whatever the Attorney General said you could sell it for. And you may, you may get a sealed bid for that exact amount from, it'd be amazing, the same people that already want to buy it bid that. And it all happens. I don't know how you take care of a broker. I don't know how to throw them under the bus, but.
Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing any more public comment, so I will close public comment. Move on to administrator comments.
A few things, Mr. Chairman. The town clerk wanted to know the selectmen's intent relative to attending the town election and what your schedules were going to be for attending the town election.
I've got mine on. I got mine in my request here, my comments. So.
Okay.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Aaron and.
I do need coverage till 4 o'clock. So, how's that? If I could beg and plead and.
Okay.
Anyone raise their hand wants to volunteer to cover me till 4 o'clock on?
Well, I don't think it's mandatory that selectmen attend, but it's.
It has to be 2 at least.
It's.
I definitely want to be there.
It's recommended that you be there and that there be a majority of the board there. Yes. Okay. Town administrator recruitment. That's continuing. I think the MRI was in touch with each of you. I think they're working on sort of a challenge statement, as I understand it. They talked to me also, so they were getting information about the issues that the town is dealing with and confronting, to do kind of a challenge statement so that the candidates know what kind of skills and such are going to be needed here in Milton. So that process is continuing.
If I could just add to that a little bit.
Surely.
They also are setting up a email address for residents, which is out there for residents to give their feedback on this open town administrator position. So that's
correct, and we were going to put that on the town website. I haven't checked. I haven't checked to see if it's on there. You say it is on there. Okay, good. So we did put that on there. So any residents that have particular comments, concerns about what the town ought to be looking for in a town administrator, that's your opportunity to have some say in the process.
And I would say if anybody doesn't have email, they could write a letter and probably bring it in and leave it with Dave, and then he can make sure it's submitted to MRI.
Oh, sure. I mentioned the cable TV people will be here on March 18th to discuss franchise renewal. I had a communication about an upcoming permitting meeting relative to the Great Bay water quality issues that they wanted a representative from the town of Milton to attend, but then they didn't get back to me with dates, so I don't have dates to give you, but apparently there's going to be some sort of permitting meeting that they want Milton representation at. Pat Smith came in and talked to me earlier today to say that you know, we have these upcoming storms tonight and then again on this weekend, and that he's running low on salt, and he said he may have enough salt to get through March, but after that he's probably going to have to juggle his budget to find money for more road salt. And of course you got November and December to account for yet, so just so you're aware of that. Let's see, I have two things for your signature. One was just handed to me. This is the revaluation contract with Avatar, and Kathy says this was pursuant to a contract that you've already approved. Is that correct?
You actually signed the original contract last year. It was a 2-year contract. This is the part going into the update of 2019. And they said that Heather actually talked to me. She said it was discussed at a previous meeting and they was just looking for signatures. But I've provided you all the copies for your review too. Also. But it's part of the original contract you signed last year.
So if it's agreeable with the board,
Is the board
I just got it
agreeable
this
to the-
afternoon. I haven't read it. I scanned it quickly, but.
would there
before
be a
the
problem
meeting-
holding it over to the next meeting for signature?
I know they're looking for it. I've seen emails that went back and forth between Heather and Avatar since I think it was at the end of December. So yes, that's how I came up. I didn't know about it myself.
Contract anyway.
I suppose we can wait, so you can, if you haven't reviewed it, I was told you have reviewed it.
I believe this is the first time we've seen it.
Okay, so I
Unfortunately.
did provide you each with a copy of that.
Yep.
And I will just let Avatar know that tomorrow. Okay?
We'll put it on the next agenda
Yep,
for
for the next meeting.
review and approval. Okay, and we talked about town bridges a little bit earlier. I have the application form here for state bridge aid construction for the Winding Road Bridge. Even though they don't have money right now, they would recommend at least we get the form in so we can sort of get in line. And so Pat Smith has signed it, and then for some reason there's only 2 slots here, 2 lines for selectmen signatures, but you know, I would just sign one signature below that if you're agreeable, so we can get Milton in line for state aid bridge money, which I gather the earliest will be about 2026.
All right, is the board agreeable to signing this?
Yes.
Yeah, we all good?
This was never signed.
What is that now?
The Northern Trucking Ordinance, they passed it, but they signed the public hearing and not the actual ordinance.
Oh, okay.
So just housekeeping.
Well, I'm being handed one other thing here for
Right, you said you
signature.
just signed on the bottom.
She didn't sign it.
Oh, you didn't sign it?
No, I figured I'd let Andy, it's one of his final, he keeps bragging, doesn't have anything left to do, so.
I didn't say anything like that.
Danielle says that the board never signed the no-through trucking ordinance that was passed. When?
You signed the public hearing, not the actual ordinance. The public hearing that was signed had a spelling error. The girls that take care of the website asked for your signature on the actual ordinance. And then this is just the payment request from the first agenda topic.
Oh,
Just the-
this is the abatement that you approved earlier in your agenda to sign.
I couldn't throw it over quick enough.
That's just me.
Good.
You missed out on that one.
Okay, and then
Fired.
that's all I have.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Selectmen comments?
Humphrey brought up, I guess, about the recordings. I think when we, on the website, I thought there was gonna be an issue as far as we were gonna go back 2 years. When they, wasn't that? I thought that once it gets up and running, that they can only go back
So far.
2 years.
Well, I understand that, but I think what happened was is they couldn't put it in a table like it was in the original thing, so
Yeah,
now they
yeah.
don't have it there at all. That was
Okay.
the reason.
I thought then they were gonna put a folder somewhere that you could
Right,
get
there's
to
some
it.
place that you could click onto it
They
and
should
get
be able
back
to go to
on.
the folder
Right,
like they
yeah,
do with the agenda and the minutes, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So maybe-
Yeah, so if we can,
yeah, did you have a note to look into that, Dave?
I know what you're referencing.
Okay.
Yeah, I did make a note when you were discussing it, yes.
and then the only other thing I got is, if I could get somebody to cover for me till 4, I'd appreciate it. If not, 2 will be there and I'll show up at 4.
Ask Bruce right there.
Bruce, you wanna do it, buddy, old pal? We're giving you all kinds of jobs tonight. Are you on the ballot for anything?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, just go with 2 then, I'll get there 4. You're both gonna be there. And that's it.
All right,
Okay.
I'm sick. I want to go home.
you good?
I'm good.
I'm good too. I think
Did you want,
meetings went
did you want non-public?
Yeah.
smooth and
Motion to adjourn. or-
we don't need the non-public, do we?
Mm-hmm.
You do? Okay. So, you wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into non-public under 91, oh, I don't even know what the heck it is.
Employee compensation, right?
Yep. A:31,
A3,
3. A,
A3 2A.
yeah. 32A.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 5 2-minute breaks when you go.
Yeah.
Boys,
Water boy.